So I slept so good last night, and I don't have the arm pain. I don't have the arm pain. I'm just like, oh my God. My armpits, you can hear my nose opening up like a creaky door because I just blew my nose. I don't have any arm pain or rashes. I don't have any hives. I woke up with a little bit of a thinking I was going to get a headache, but no, I just had to blow my nose because there was pressure. You hear that? There was pressure building up. And so I blew my nose and pooped and all that stuff. And I drank my coffee. And wow, I'm 50 years old. I turned 50 in February. And I basically was like a starving orphan when I started out in this world. And my mother knew what kind of world I was entering into. Like, she knew. She knew if she didn't develop a super soldier that would protect herself from her peers, I would eventually be an innocent little lamb and then get victimized by somebody in my peer group and not survive it, and then become deadly. That's what happens when you don't prepare someone for the world they live in. They're all like innocent and virginal and so good, right? They have this view of the world that everyone's good, everyone's beautiful, everyone's love, right? And so they live maybe about 18, 19, 20 years, and they're in their homogenized family circle of people. And they finally get out into the real world. They're not protected by their little group of people, friends and family and relatives. And they come upon someone who realizes just how sheltered they are, realizes just how innocent they are. And they take them for everything. Like, literally, they get taken for everything. And so now this little innocent lamb who finally ventures out into the world and sees what the world actually is, not the image and the fantasy that the family perpetrated on that person. And they are either like, they don't survive their peers, or they survive their peers that took advantage of them, and they realize the world is so dangerous, and then they become a vigilante. That's the extremes of being so good and so innocent and so this, to then finally seeing the reality of the world out there, and they go from one extreme to the other. And so when someone is like that, when they're so fucking innocent and so beautiful and so nice and so loving and kind and whatever, and they get a taste, a dose of the reality out there, they can't survive the other side. Because how could you? Because that's your defense mechanism. When you get victimized by someone and your whole world of what you thought was so becomes not what you thought, that's where you get the vigilantes from. That's where you get the annihilators from. That's where you get women that are black widows, like Eileen Wuornos. She was victimized by men all over the place, and then she became a serial killer against the men because she was victimized. She didn't know how to deal with the reality of the world that she lived in. And so 9/11 was a turning point in America. So you saw what happens when people are so comfortable in America, in their homogenized house, in their group of people, you know, their sororities and fraternities, and then all those people that live or that work in that World Trade Center are all from these good families, realized there's a lot more evil out there in the world. Not because that happened. Well, yeah, because that happened, but that was more of a lesson that you can't be too comfortable anywhere. Because again, when you're in a gated community, and that's the only world you know, and you're all protected by the policemen and all the security and the people and neighbors, and you go outside of your gated community, there's a whole world out there that is so deadly that will find a way to take you for everything. If you can't find a way to protect yourself and become resilient and learn how to fight the battles and learn from your mistakes, you won't survive your peers. And so 9/11, so I had my own 9/11 that was great, because even though I was like, something to resist and something that my sister had to deal with as an older sister, it gave her the tools to survive situations, assuming she may or may not survive in the future. I don't know. I've yet to see that happen. But, we'll see what happens. She's still surviving. But that's the thing, is that 9/11 was a wake-up call that all of your little innocent boys and girls out there, they're so protected by your family, and you're all airheady about the reality, living your fucking fantasy. When the real world comes knocking at your door, and whether it's a pandemic, or whether it's, immigrants, or whether it's somebody outside of your circle coming in, and they're not necessarily doing anything harm to you, but there's like maybe new evolution, there's new microbes. If you're not preparing that child and that person to deal with diversity, to deal with evolution, to deal with all these things, they won't survive their peers, they won't survive climate change, they won't survive anything. They'll fucking die. Or the term predatory. And just look at your Facebook. And people are introduced to climate change and V's and all that stuff. They were so homogenized, so protected, so well protected, they couldn't survive any type of change. And we are raising children like that. We are raising airheady parents who are so fucking oblivious to the world they live in, where their purses out. I mean, that's why I wrote the things I wrote the last few days. Because I remember my mother, when she saw a lady at the grocery store, and the lady had her back turned and had her purse open, with her wallet open. And when she was bending down looking at something, I don't think she had a phone back then in the 80s. And my mother goes, "Do you know that someone could steal your purse?" And the woman's like, "Oh, thank you." Yeah. We have girls, we have women, we have men, we have boys, we have children who don't even know the reality of the world. And so, in a lot of ways, what the right and the left are doing is showing you that your little protected world was just an illusion, that you literally have to find a way to survive some major adversity to not only strengthen your genetic line, but strengthen also the human race. That the reality of being so homogenized and so protected amongst your family and friends and politics, religion, and science, that was an illusion. At some point, reality had to kick in. And I'm telling you, people don't like the reality of the world they live in. They don't like seeing all the gore and everything else. Now, here's the thing. I remember when I was a nanny to this kid that lived in a homogenized community. And, and I'm like 19 and 20, and I've seen so much. I've seen criminals. I've seen the ghetto. Before I was even 18, I've seen how my peers lived on the other side of the tracks. Okay, so I was not homogenized. I was not sheltered. But I saw what the other side lived like. And it gave me a bigger awareness of the world that I live in. I wasn't like, I was very worldly before I was 18, when you think about it. And so when I was watching this kid who's so homogenous, living in a homogenized community, living in such upper middle class, upper middle class, like I was, like I grew up, but he never saw the other, he didn't know what the other side lived like. And I wanted to show him, I think I wanted to, but then no, yeah, I for some reason I did not, because I thought it was not appropriate. It was not my child to show him the other side. But I remember wanting to show him that there are people who are struggling to survive. There are people who live with people who are doing harm to them. There are people who are trying to who are starving, that they can't get a bite to eat. They're living on the streets. They're homeless. I remember being in the homeless. I'm trying to, when I was a kid, when we went to San Francisco and all the homeless, and I'm like, oh my God, there's so much homeless. Why? There's all these empty buildings. Why do we have so much homeless? I didn't understand. So my mother goes, why don't you write to the mayor? So I did write to Dianne Feinstein at the time and said, well, why don't we put all the homeless in all these empty buildings? And And I did get a form letter back from Dianne Feinstein, and I don't remember exactly what it said, but I'm sure it was some kind of, canned response about somebody's concern, especially a child's concern about homeless. But it was like, I don't remember what was said, but it was enough for like, okay, well, I guess I'll give up trying to save the world. But I used to go, in my 20s, would go and just take pictures, go to San Francisco and take pictures, because it was so weird to me. And then even when I was as a nanny in the 90s, right after the Rodney King riots and everything, and I would go into South Central, and I asked the maid of the house that I was a nanny for, and said, hey, where do you live? She's like, oh, I live over there, Figueroa Street over there in South Central. I'm like, well, I want to go and see it. I want to go and see what it's like. And so I go down there, and she's living there, and I go visit her, and I take pictures of people with corn in a carriage selling corn on the street, and there was so much garbage everywhere, and I'm like, oh my God, this is how the other side lives? I was like, oh my God, wow. I was just so interested in how other people lived and what they deal with. And so, and I've always, whenever I go and visit like countries and states and people, I want to know what their story is. I want to know what survival they had to go through to survive their situation. And then it also makes me aware. I start gaining the memory. And sometimes some situations were dangerous that I would stay probably too long in and then maybe get maimed in the process, but then survive it, of course. And then that memory is then carried with me. So everywhere I would go, there'd be danger, there'd be lessons, there'd be financial lessons, there'd be physical lessons, there'd be intellectual lessons. And so those were the memories to carry me through situations that I inevitably would have to survive. Being around diverse people, and then feeling my gut feeling, oh, this is a dangerous situation. Oh, I got to know my exit points. Oh, this person's acting weird. This person's acting weird. This person's acting weird. Oh, shit. Should I get with that person? Because, and so, or selling insurance, like cold calling and telemarketing. You can kind of tell if the person is legit, or they're just shining you on, or they're just lonely and talking your ear off. And so I gain all of this memory and these experiences going from office to office and family to family, maybe boyfriend to boyfriend and friend to friend. And so I'm gaining so much knowledge from the world that I live in. So that way, when there is an aggressive situation that I have to survive, I might stay too long in it and really learn some hard, painful lessons and then get the hell out. And I'll tell you, I was in some pretty aggressive situations that could have ended up deadly. I could have been human trafficked. I could have been killed. I remember just going like, oh my God, I'm in this situation. I can't get out. And then I do escape something, and I'm trying to open up the gate, put my arm through, and the gate almost cut my arm off. And I remember that going, oh my God, I could have, and that memory of almost having a gate cut off my arm. And I would be a little bit hurt, but then I did get out and finally, came back, got my shit the next day against somebody's advice when I told them what had happened. But I had that memory of almost having my arm cut off from a gate from a situation that I survived. And that stayed with me for, I would say, probably a few months. I wasn't damaged that much on my arm, but maybe that's what it was this last because of that too. That's right. That was a major memory. That was a major trauma, that my right arm, and probably why I had so much pain. See, there's so much. I'm telling you, there's so many situations that you learn and you survive them, but eventually you're going to have to repair the damage. You're going to have to build up resistance and also build up memories and build up substance so you can release the demons and keep the good memories and keep the good lessons. So that way, when you go out there in diverse society, you know who's dangerous and who's not. You know when to get the fuck out, when not to stay too long. You know so many things because you built up the memory banks of lessons. And how many kids out there are building up these memory banks of lessons. No, they're staying in their little homogenized household. Their parents and their grandparents are so overprotective. They're getting treated to death with all the remedies and surgeries and the antibiotics and the detoxes, and starving them of food and then blaming the air, food, and water for whatever. So these kids are basically sitting ducks. It's just a matter of time before they don't have the protection of their family around them. And they're ended up by themselves, separated from the flock, and then some little wolf, big wolf, little wolf, sniffs them out. And it could be a boyfriend, it could be, a human trafficker. And they end up disappearing, they end up dying, they end up maimed so much that they can't even survive it because they don't know how to fucking feel anything. We have parents raising fucking zombies and ghosts out there. And so these kids don't survive. And so there are super soldiers now that are teaching the population, your life is a fucking illusion. Your little homogenized safety enclave is a fucking illusion, because if it's not the people on the other side of the railroad tracks going to teach you a lesson, and if it's not even some government, mind control assassin teach you a lesson, then the microbes will teach you a fucking lesson. And that's what the pandemic is. It's like the microbes that you hold inside that you've always resisted or had cut out or oncologized, they eventually come to surface. And there are some pretty deadly memories. And some of you passed on those deadly memories and traumatic memories to your children, and they'll have to deal with it at some point. And they may not have the means to survive them. And that's why you have the died suddenlies out there. And that's why you have these kids are sitting ducks that think that everything is pleasure and paradise and everyone's good and whatever else. And oh my God. It astounds me, the kind of obliviousness and the airheads that are out there. And it is about beauty. I'm telling you, so many airheads out there about beauty and love and sex and, oh, look, here's my MLM supplement that makes you feel so good. And you're just like, God, has this person been lobotomized? Did they get electroshock therapy just recently, and now they're just all about love, love, love? You're just like, dude, oh my Lord. And what kind of kid are they raising? Holy shit. They're raising a fucking lamb. Can be led to slaughter one day. Just give it time. Give it fucking time. Oh God, it's crazy. And that's why I am the way I'm so fucking harsh, because I see these little lambs being bred by these grandparents and these parents. And these poor kids don't stand a fucking chance, because the parents can't be around 100% of the time to protect them. And they're not giving their kids anything to protect themselves with, because they keep running away their diseases. They keep carving out everything. And they keep blaming the government and the air, food, and water for all of their issues. So the kid can't drink water, can't breathe the air, and they can't eat the food. So what? They become a gelatinous blob or some little toothpick that eventually gets pregnant. Oh, joy. What a future for your grandkids. What a future for your fucking kids. And so you feel sorry for these generations of children who don't have what it takes to survive a very diverse, aggressive world that they've been so sheltered from. Now, I know my husband used the word sheltered on me the other day, and I use that word because I'm like, oh, that's just not a new word, but that was a recent word that was used. Because I never watched like Kill Tony or these comedians out there. Because I wasn't about distraction with laughter and comedy. So a lot of these entertainment venues are about distracting people from the reality of the world they live in and their own bullshit. But I never was raised really, and even when I was in my 20s and 30s, I didn't turn to comedy. I went to dance clubs and stuff and played pool, but I didn't turn to comedy. So I watched movies. That's about it. So I'm like thanking my husband. We hung out, we watched Kill Tony, and then also watched that scammer video of hackers who then turned the tables and used their hacking for good, hacking the hackers. And I'm like, oh my God. And so hanging out with my husband and seeing the world that he comes from, the world that he knows, and the world that he's familiar with. And he's a strong dude. And he makes people strong. And some people who allow it will be destroyed by someone like my husband, but you have to be strong. My husband is very fucking strong. He's an amazing dude. but he also, wants what he wants. And so you have to be a strong female to know your boundaries with someone like my husband, because he is all male. He's all fucking male. And that's the attraction, but that also could be the detriment if a female doesn't understand her boundaries. And a lot of these women out there don't know their boundaries. They've been told by their mothers to basically be a sexual plaything and to give it up and to be the right kind of wife for the husband and not have no boundaries. And so, yeah, these poor girls, they're hot chicks, will definitely allow someone to cross boundaries and destroy her, screw her to death. And that's what I feel sorry for these young girls who are hot and sexual, is because their grandparents teach them they should have no boundaries with their husbands or wives or whoever out there that they get with. And so we have little lambs led to slaughter, and we have little annihilators out there who are like, oh, great. They have all these females that will do anything for them, and so they think that's how females should be, is basically their plaything, something to destroy and dispose of. And so we have all these women out there developing children who are going to be disposable to those that, hey, they're going to do what is instinctual to them. Conquer, destroy, annihilate, dispose of, go to the next thing. That's the whole New Age movement. Everything is medicine. Like, everything is medicine. Fuck, the New Age movement thinks this is fucking medicine. Oh, you know what medicine is? Sleeping is medicine. Your friends are medicine. Your shirt's medicine. Your freaking towel's medicine. Coffee's medicine. All your food's medicine. Oh, that's right. Activism is medicine. So they medicinify everything. They don't understand the discernment. And so you get the New Age movement basically destroying each other and themselves. But hey, that's what we've developed in our population. People who are procreating on bodies in deficit, who are crawling with demons because they can't release them. They hold on to them. Or they blame the government and say, oh, the food supply is fucking poison. No, you're deficient. You can't handle air, food, and water. You can't handle milk, meat, cheese, eggs, and whatever. You're always checking yourself into the hospital or some remedy, or even using J juice all the time, which you don't need to. You need fucking food and milk and meat and cheese. But you can't tell someone to suffer if they don't have the capacity to. So then they develop a mainstream deficiency, starvation, and blaming, and they become fucking predators in our society. They become the airhead parents out there that want to go and fight the system when they actually need to fucking win the wars within themselves, but they keep developing children, super soldiers, to be the lesson in whatever manner, and then we have a fucking war. Now go look at your fucking Facebook. We're in a fucking war because we have parents who are fucking airheads out there. And you can't tell them anything because, oh no, it's all been legitimized by their government, by their friends and family. They hang out in group mentality. And so when you have people around you confirming or legitimizing or reinforcing weaknesses, reinforcing your politics, religion, science, yeah, you can think, oh yeah, I'm in the right. And someone like me, they'll go after and be like, oh, she's stupid. She doesn't have a degree. She's traumatized. The trauma actually is the magic, but you can't be the one to traumatize somebody else. It must be done through some really strategic means that doesn't turn a person into a serial fucking killer. But we have people out there that do corporal punishment on their kids, thinking, oh yeah, well, I'll do the magic on them, and turn their kids into serial killers. Kid comes back and annihilates their own parents because the parents were the one that inflicted that. Do you realize that I have no issue with my mother? I went through hell, and it wasn't like she beat me, but it was a psychological hell. And she also showed the side that what needed to be understood, the intellectual side, or to be understood, to show that there was a good intention with this. There was a necessary intention. When we went on family vacations and we had the Christmases and the holidays and the birthday parties, but also there were some aggressive other lessons that needed to be taught in a way that needed to be taught. And there was no exposure to violence. There was no exposure to porn. I mean, if I read books that happened to be of a sexual nature, well, I read books, okay. But if I'd watch movies, it would be like, something that's PG-13. We watched Desperately Seeking Susan in the theaters. I was like maybe 12. My sister was, a little bit younger than me, 2.5 years. So we saw that, but that was just conditioning us to be feminine. Okay? But no, we weren't introduced to hard, crazy fucking porn like these boys are. And then these girls then just take it from these guys. And so she showed both sides. And that's why I don't have any issues with my I actually see the strategy though what she did. And I look at my peers out there who were exposed to mainstream Fast Times at Ridgemont High, but, have high school sweethearts, and now they're either have a child or they went into drug addiction and crazy sexuality, or just complete fucking airhead. And you can tell. Oh, believe me, I can tell. Or they turn into cults, religious cults. I've seen it all. And so I actually have an appreciation. So yeah, it has to be done right for you to hate your parents at one end, but also fucking love them and respect them. But no, we have these parents that are like, oh, either they are so hated and the kid wants to destroy and actually kill their parents, or we have kids that love their parents so much and worship the ground they walk on, so it's easy to manipulate the kids and vice versa. And we have, these kids that just completely walked away from their parents. They don't even know what the fuck to think, so they just do their own thing. And they're around, another family that will give them what they think they need. And so, yeah, so my mother did it correctly, and I finally see it for what it is. Thank fucking God, because if not, oh my God. And so the super soldiers against the sweet and deadly airheads of our society. That's what the SS is for when you think about it. There is definitely a war between the good and evil, and I can never be the one to tell you what side is good and what side is evil. The system has been and are actively developing different super soldiers who have so many different tactics of engagement, and they do not look like your traditional super soldiers or SS. Super soldiers are people on both sides, the Democrats and Republicans, and they are not just your pundits on YouTube or Facebook or even your politicians. Undetectable mind-controlled people are people you would never ever suspect, and some experiments go awry, and other experiments do take, but chaotic or unpredictable outcomes do arise. They are the people that will either cause harm to a population who is so comfortable in their greed and lack of evolution, and they are the people who will teach the world how to survive everyone who are developing their little super soldiers in their family. So when these kids get corporal punishment or no regulation, so they are basically running chaotic and they don't know how to protect themselves, and they're out there wearing their booty shorts and their low tops, walking in public after dark. That mother taught that girl to wear booty shorts and show her body off. Because you look at some of the mothers out there, they're showing off their bodies. They're advertising their kids who look hot and sexual. That's what we're developing out there. And so if you look at your Facebook, you can see men and women developing little super soldiers who will annihilate and harm anyone who gets in their way. And that's why you have a rape and murder and domestic violence. And these parents are proud of developing annihilators, but they were also produced to develop annihilators to make other people stronger, but some people take it too far. And some of these girls and boys don't survive their husbands or boyfriends, wives, or aggressive families. Oh yeah. And that's also where you get the pimps and the madams from. Those are also super soldiers that find little innocent lambs and use them because the parents never taught them how to stay safe and survive aggressive situations. These parents never showed them what happens when you walk into a situation they can't control. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, wear your low-cut top. Go ahead, wear your booty shorts and go dance on the tables and be drunk with your girlfriends, right? With your girlfriends. And be like a little sheep right out there drunk and completely not even aware. And then some wolf finds one that gets separated and picks her off. And that was the Austin serial killer showing you what happens when little lambs go out there and get drunk because their mommy did, their daddy did. Okay. There you go. You just developed a little fucking lamb. I call them airhead parents who are all about love and sex and activism. Oh, look, my pretty child and lovely house. Complete fucking airheads. And they come from a long line of ancestral airheads. Ancestral spiritual possession is using alchemy to conjure up what already exists in the human, but it needs to be teased out, fostered out, and controlled, right? Parents tease out the ancestral possession with their kids, and parents/patients/customers with traditions. Okay? So parents can also be in the energy healing world. And they sell exercise regimes, and they sell detoxes, and they sell MLMs, right? And so they tease out ancestral possession with their kids and their patients and customers with traditions and prayers and hymns and medicine, playdates, and even their anger or love they bestow upon their dependents, regardless if they are blood related or not. So you can have a foster kid, you can have an adopted kid, you can have whatever kid from whatever situation, and you will definitely find a way to bring up some ancestral possession. The school system, religious system, and the political and science system also teases out, controls, and sometimes cuts out the most aggressive spirits in the population, which is why you have law enforcement or a type of men in black, because what do law enforcement wear? Well, the sheriffs wear a tan suit, and they're the feds, but it's the law enforcement, the police, the local police wearing the dark navy blue, and sometimes they wear tactical gear. Sometimes they have to be really men in black and be like the SWAT team, or DEA or something, right? And so it's why you have law enforcement or a type of men in black letting the more aggressive spirits know they're not there to hurt you. But if you allow your deadly spirits to control you, the men in black will control you and the deadly spirits you foster. So that was the whole George Floyd situation. Showing you the police are not there to protect you. They're there to take people who can't control their fucking shit, to protect the population from you. And that's what the medical holistic system is, to protect the population from you who could be out of control because of your lack of life management. It's not there to protect you. It's to protect people around you, but maybe protect you because if you act stupid, then the drugs that you're under will shut you up so you don't say something out of turn and someone wants to kick your ass. So, I mean, it's all relative to how you want to look at it, but it's not there to keep you alive. It's there to fucking control your goddamn spirits that you've allowed to get way out of control because your parents produced that within you. And they didn't know their own power. You don't know your own power. And you fucking abuse it. And so, the system of scientists knew that if they did not control people reproducing children and regulate animal breeding, the chaotic, deadly spirits of greed and gluttony and sloth and all the 7 deadly sins would annihilate humanity. And then God would have to start all over again, and create heaven and earth and animals and humans all over again. So they developed programs to understand what caused people and animals to go off the fucking deep end. Aggressive gore, okay? This will cause people to go off the deep end. Aggressive gore, sexuality, like aggressive sexuality, violence, innocence, and then a psychopathic manipulative predator who finds ways to possess people and destroy them from within. How do you think these kids get brutalized by mother's boyfriends? Because mommy let them in. Mommy allowed them to come in. And then these kids get groomed by these boyfriends that they don't know anything about. Mother didn't know anything about them. And so children growing up seeing domestic violence, gore, death, and destruction, and then porn are on the flip side kept so innocent and entitled, we get a tinderbox of adults who find ways to annihilate and take over each other's body, mind, and spirit, and money, material wealth, and call it love and healing. I gotta drink some water. How do you develop a law-abiding, peaceful adult? The child or the adult must survive their deadly, manipulative peers, their environment and violence, and build up a memory of lessons, resistance, and discernment that only life lessons and dealing with the demons can only give, assuming they survive making mistakes, and no parents can 100% protect their kid from everything. And if they try locking their kids up to protect them, you will have a more aggressive situation to deal with, and you could be thrown in jail. No parent in mainstream society has the capacity nor the license to do that, which is why they will be guiding reproduction carefully in the future, because parents nowadays are breeding bullies and destroyers and also little innocent lambs who get corrupted by the wrong person or drug and are on the hunt and then destroy whomever looks like a person, place, or thing who corrupted them in the first place. That's why it's so fucking dangerous raising these little innocent lambs. It becomes a war and it's deadly. If you only knew how powerful alchemy and sexual reproduction and hormones are against an unsuspecting person, is, and people do get lost in the deadly magic and crave it and hunt for it and die for it. And so just watch many of your family and friends so addicted to drugs, alcohol, herbs, extracts, pleasure, or into inducing pain onto themselves or others. So you have cutters, you have BDSM, you have sex addicts, you have all with these swingers out there, right? It is a mess out there, and we still keep reproducing innocent children amidst all of this chaos, thinking we will be special and produce the perfect child. Where did you get that idea that you'll produce the perfect fucking child? My peers were the people I had to survive the most. My parents gave me the tools to survive all of you. And of course, you guys had to survive me too, okay? And that is why the system of scientists do what they do to develop strong humans. But it starts out in childhood. When you know this as an adult, you stay far away from diverse groups of people. Kids will learn the hard way, one way or another, and even young adults will learn the hard way, assuming their parents gave them the tools for survival. I agree with the Georgia Guidestones because I've seen evil out there, and it was not my parents. It was so many of my peers. I've been in Jesus cults because someone I knew was in it, and I was on the heels of some stupid situation that I needed to escape from, so I hung out in Hawaii for a minute. Okay. I'm not saying people were evil, but eventually that turned out to be evil when after I left and found out later on the person that was leading that situation was abusing the kids in that situation. And I didn't know that was going on at the time, but it was a place for me to land for a minute to collect my thoughts and explore another culture. But I've seen evil. It was online dating, whether it's just my peers, maybe some people I hung out with that I didn't realize to what extent how dangerous they were. Holy shit. Okay? But I survived all of it. And so, and with all things being equal, my peers had to find a way to survive me while I was building up the memories, trying to survive them. Okay? And so what's an airhead? I use that term actually recently because it actually makes sense. When I hang out with girls and they're just like all about like their clothes and their makeup and their boyfriends and their girlfriends and the latest club they went to and the latest things they bought from Amazon or eBay, and like, oh look, my pretty purse. Oh look at this new shirt. I got it vintage. I'm thinking, are they fucking airheads? These are fucking airheads. Like seriously, I'm saying it in my head, they're airheads. They're all into their pleasure in paradise and buying shit. They're all into group dynamics and hanging out with people and parties. And you're like, Jillian, you sound so fucking judgmental. Well, that's the thing. I've seen so much more than these girls out there that have been so sheltered. People think I'm sheltered. No, I just wasn't mixing in with comedy clubs. I wasn't out there at the malls hanging out with my girlfriends in groups like these mean girl cliquey bitches do. And believe me, I've been around cliquey bitches. And they'll be nice to your face and man, they'll stab you in the back. Or they'll be like, so interested in what I have to say and quiz me, but then try to counter me. Oh, I've been around those kind of bitches too. Why do you call them bitches? Because I'll tell you, they have no real nice intention. Their intention is to stab you from within, but be nice to your face and put on a false front. False prophets, right? So I've encountered evil out there, and some of them are the hot chicks that think they're better than other people. And then wield their power and say they're the most right. And of course, people are attracted to them. So they have then the power of numbers. And they'll build an alliance against you just like that. And so then when you think, oh, that they like you or you're trying to be nice to them and they find ways to get in and no, they don't like you, but they'll find a way to get in and then fucking needle you and poke you and poke you and poke you until you say like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm not gonna be around these people. I'm not gonna be around these cliquey fucking bitches. And I'm done with all these women out there who've been raised to be so homogenized and so sexual and manipulative and then out there blaming people for why they have issues, why they got raped, why they got victimized, why they can't handle air, food, and fucking water. Yeah, because you decide to be hot and skinny, starving yourself, and then actually manipulating somebody else to take their resources or try to destroy them because that's what you've been trained to do as a clicky fucking hot bitch. And so, yeah, well, all things being equal, I had to find a way to survive. My peers had to find a way to survive me while I was building up the memories, trying to survive them. And yes, I've dealt with some airheads in my world. Oh, fuck yeah. And of course, these airheads think they have the power over these men, which they do, because they use their sexuality to have power over these men, who will then line up like little soldiers and protect these little sea nymphs out there who aim to actually destroy you from within. Oh, but they come off so, oh, it's bad. And I feel it in my gut. And so that's why I don't hang out with them. I don't go to parties. I don't do nothing. I'm not done with it. I'm tired of these bitches out there. And I'm sure they're tired of me, right? Of being judgmental. Oh no, you sit in my situation and have little clicky bitches quiz you about shit, needling you at the same time. You don't understand where the fuck but people are under the influence. They're drugged out. They don't fucking feel anything. Yeah, when you're under the influence and anesthetized, you would never know when someone's fucking needling you. You would never know what danger was because you're under the fucking influence. So airheads can be a slang pejorative term for someone who is completely disengaged with reality, living in their fantasy of illusions and image, and also a military term because you have to build up a resistance against these people because they're producing lambs of death in the population that's so deadly to each other. And then they become a victim and then on the hunt, then you have to develop an army against them because they put themselves in these fucked up positions because they live in a fucking fantasy land. So when you have this little innocent lamb get victimized by somebody, whether it's the medical system or the holistic system or some rapist out there or deadly person, and then they're like all maimed and all just like the girls from the Epstein, right? Then they go out on TV and say, oh, we got to get rid of this guy. Oh, but your mother didn't know where the hell you were. You're going off to some rich island in Epstein. Your mother did not keep track of you. You made a choice because you wanted to make money and get some kind of, a shortcut to the good life. And so then some of them, find a way to channel their trauma into a family and activism and getting justice. And others then, might turn to an Eileen Wuornos and stay a prostitute and then destroy their Johns. Yeah. We produce this. We produce airheads in our population. And you see them, they're all over Facebook. Because they're the ones that are showing their bodies and showing off their beautiful girls. Basically advertising their daughters and granddaughters and sons to the world out there. And so there are multiple matches for airheads, including a slang term and military term. An airhead is an informal critical term for someone who is considered stupid, scatterbrained, simple-minded. For example, you might call them an airhead if they spend a long time looking for something obvious like their sunglasses on their heads, dingbat, space case, silly person, rattlebrain. A military term. An airhead is an area seized by an airborne forces during warfare, usually at an airport or other accessible areas. The purpose of the airhead is to allow for the continuous supply of troops and materials by air. Notable examples of airhead operations include the Battle of Crete, Operation Market Garden, and Operation Just Cause. So you can imagine all these people out there who are just like flitting around like fucking airheads, putting themselves in positions, and they have to bring in troops and people to protect them from themselves. That's what these celebrity people, when they develop children, boys and girls, they have to have like Secret Service or some kind of, protection or security firm to protect their daughters. Oh, I taught my daughter how to do jujitsu and shit. Oh, yeah, what about psychological operations? Does she understand that? Oh, wait, she's probably an airhead. So she can only defend herself physically, but no one's going to come at her physically because that's obvious. People come at each other psychologically. Manipulate the fuck out of them. Become the charming guy that looks good on paper. The charming girl that looks good on paper. And finds her way in, his way in, through love and sex and gifts and baubles, and the parents are charmed to death. The parents are like, oh gosh, Johnny, Billy, Susie found a good one. And look, his resume is so amazing. But he has some crazy BDSM shit. And it's like this 50 Shades of Grey. So we have these mothers and grandmothers selling their daughters and sons into 50 Shades of Grey situations. But they know jujitsu. But they can't fucking figure out how to deal with psychological operations and manipulation. But they know jujitsu. And so the system develops super soldiers against a bunch of airhead people who absolutely have no impetus to protect themselves or their children. Airheads are the weakest link in the population, and that's why you have so many victims in our society, because it was a fucking parent and grandparent who set them up to fail. And so yeah, I feel sorry for these kids out there that are raised by these airheads. I seriously do. A lot of them are in my high school class, and they were in their cliques judging me for being different or something, for not assimilating to them. And they have their little airhead children. I'm sorry, I'm going to be fucking frank. Airhead children who don't know the ways of the world think that, oh, Silicon Valley and California is going to stay safe forever, that no one's going to cross railroad tracks, and they won't even know how to protect themselves when they go to college, when they end up dating somebody within their circle of people. People are breaking down, and they have a kid, and the kid takes so much for them, the kid now has issues. But whatever, I mean, it is what it is. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into all the stuff that put me up to this point, but I did destroy the main vampire in my body. I did destroy the main vampire. And so I wanted to read that about super soldiers, because we can develop super soldiers to basically wake up people from their fucking reverie, their illusions about the world. And we have super soldiers. We have to have super soldiers against these airheads to protect them from themselves, also protect society from them. Because when they do get victimized by somebody, inevitably, they will be on the hunt for someone that looks like what corrupted them. Good morning. I'm not talking to anybody on Facebook, just so you know. And so that's why we have the system of governance that we have, because we have parents developing these little lambs led to slaughter that will turn predatory. Because they will get victimized. And then they will have disease too. And they'll also produce children that will be just as predatory. I said I'm not talking people through this. Hold on. And so the developed children who will inevitably put themselves in positions to develop an army to protect them and then protect the population from that situation. Because when you have a little lamb led to slaughter, and they do get slaughtered by somebody in the population, you can't have your neighbors seeing what happened. Because then you will traumatize the population and then turn them all crazy. And that's the thing with these innocent girls and boys putting themselves in positions. They become deadly examples to their peers, and some of these peers won't be able to survive seeing that situation. And so that's why you have the coroners, and that's why you have the police to cordon off situations so you don't see the deadliness, and you don't see the gore. But yeah, I do feel sorry for these kids put out there on display. I do feel sorry for these kids. Because they're going to walk into situations they won't know how to fucking protect themselves from. But yeah, those days of living in the illusions that everything is so safe, everything is so fantasy and shit. Silicon Valley was the illusion. Silicon Valley, Saratoga, Montessorino, Los Gatos, all San Francisco was the illusion. And we have all these parents that are living in these illusions. Yeah, you might have a nice house, but that's just a house. You see, when you look at the abandoned, you look at Facebook Reels and the abandoned buildings, some of these houses were run by mafia. That world's over with. I can only imagine some places in Saratoga and Cupertino and whatever, when finally the tech industry leaves California, you'll have a bunch of empty, like even in LA, a bunch of empty 10,000, 2,000, 6,000 square foot homes that shows you a time that once was. People were praying to the money gods, praying to, oh, my kids are so beautiful, fucking gods, praying to the gods of status and wealth and prestige and power. And those days will be over at some point, if they're not already. So, yeah, wow. And I do feel a little bit of a headache. I don't know why, but I think it's because my brain now is expanding with all this knowledge. And part of me is just so angry at how, I don't even know, angry, I'm going to say, is it angry? Yeah, I'm probably so angry at the people that develop these children to be such airheads, to be so mean to each other. And that's probably what Charles Manson was so against. That's probably why he killed Sharon Tate. Because he knew what she represented. She represented some very mean women out there who use their looks to destroy people, who use her looks to get into people's psyches, who pretend to be one way and then be completely different. And, oh my God. Charles Manson knew. I'm not saying I condone what he did, but he showed you what the system and what people develop within their families. And yeah, he wanted to be famous and all that, but he couldn't get into the music industry. They didn't want him in the music industry because he would definitely cast a spell over the world. And I played some of his music because I knew that was somewhere in the background of my upbringing, probably when I was a baby. My mother did everything right. She gave me she gave me so many tools, but then I had to figure out how to regulate and control my powers as a young person and a young adult. And that's a lot to deal with. But I found a way to survive it. But it was brutal. It was freaking brutal. But it was necessary. And so that's why I don't hang out in groups of people. Because inevitably there'll be some chick or some guy that's going to be an annihilator and a manipulator and know about my information and will fucking stab me because I called them out without actually calling them out. You can't trust your peers, especially when you fucking know now how the world works. You can't trust your peers. You be very fucking careful who you mix in with. The more knowledge you have around of what society is, the more you don't want to mix in with people. And yeah, you can put on a mask, right? Like when I go out there in public, go in the grocery store, I put on the mask of, and I just smile at everybody. I just smile. That's it. I smile. I'm polite. I don't play the whole kindness thing. I don't go buy people coffee. I don't pay it forward. I don't play with children. I don't wave at children. It's not my place to mess with children. It's not my place to go buy somebody coffee. It's not my place to go be kind to some stranger. You stay away from people's kids. You don't get involved in trying to be kind to people because you don't know what the fuck you're dealing with. Let them be kind to themselves. But it's not my place to go and control somebody's feelings. It's not my place to manipulate some kind of hormone that I get off on. So people do when they buy people drinks, when they go and play with kids out there, strange kids. They don't know. They think they have the right to go and play with somebody's hormones by giving them money, by giving them coffee, by playing with their kids. It's not your place to even cross boundaries, even to get a hormone return. I just smile and I'm polite and I allow people to go, in front of me if I need to. If I'm driving, I drive defensively. And that's it. I play no manipulation game with anybody because I know how manipulation works. It starts off with kindness and love and being a Mother Teresa and saving people. And then you end up taking over. That's what happens. But it starts off with kindness and love. And then you end up creeping in and taking over somebody until you completely cannibalize them and annihilate them. Even though that's not your intention, that's what happens. Because you get such a good return on your investment, being kind and loving and getting hormones from people by using what you have, whether it's your hormones, your looks, or with your money, with your power of persuasion. And so I noticed that within myself the last 8 years, being drunk with power. And it is a deadly power to have over people with your kindness and your love and even your brutality. People hold the pain and suffering within. They have to, if they want to feel the magic of whatever, they have to feel it. But you can't make somebody feel the power within because they could have a deadly power they don't know how to control. And so that's why you have the medical holistic system coming in and controlling people's powers, but you have to be licensed and you can't make claims. And so that's what I've been feeling the last 4 months, was the power that was given to me that I had to learn how to control. And what tools did my mother give me to learn how to control my power? Writing, reading. I'm not on the radio, William Paul. I'm just on Facebook Live here. You can follow me here, but I don't interact with people. Okay, I just do what I say. I say what I say, and that's it. I don't want any influence over you. You hear what I have to say, and then you make your own choices. But the tools that I was given to control and channel my powers is through reading, is through writing. Not going out there and trying to save anyone, not going out there trying to inflict justice on anyone. I'm not a vigilante. But how do I control my powers? Is I feel the pain and suffering. I release the demons the way I have in my book. And I write everything out. And I have no intention of using somebody to get ahead. I have to get out some of the shit that I went through. I don't say everything about everything in my childhood. No, there's no point in that. Everybody has their own demons to deal with. But there are significant demons that I had to release and also set the record straight so no one makes assumptions. Yeah, when I saw the two people from California that know my sister has her own stuff that goes on, and I understand that's fine. She has her perception of me, and I get it. Her and I have talked about certain things from the past. But I don't know what kind of perception they had, so I had to go on and set the fucking record straight so no one can make assumptions. No one is evil unless somebody develops that evil within them and not tell them how to channel their energy, whatever it is. And you can release the demons. But like with 50 Shades of Grey, he didn't release the demons. He channeled it through contractual agreements of sexual BDSM. But that's still very destructive. And any female that says yes to that, oh my God, fine, I guess. But I don't want anyone mischaracterizing who I am because they have their own fucking demons to deal with and use me as a scapegoat. That's not going to fucking happen. And so my mother was exactly correct, separating us from a situation that basically was a divorced family with somebody breaking code in that family. And so we left that situation and set it on our own. And we didn't have any more close-knit family people that we hung out with. It was, we go do celebrations and stuff through the Jewish Community Center. But I will not have somebody mischaracterize me. So that's what really just set me off the last few days. Because I know how people perceive me. I felt it. I've been around it. And so at some point I would have the strength, the technical ability, and the right mind to be able to characterize things correctly without mischaracterizing or victimizing anyone in the process. And that's ultimately what you want to finally figure out, is how do you not victimize somebody else so you can get ahead, but still get what you need to get out. And so no, I don't have a therapist. I don't need one. I figured out how to speak my piece without humiliating anyone specifically and without victimizing anyone specifically. But you have to learn how to speak and write and read and process and learn the basics. Your ABCs, 1, 2, 3, physics, chemistry, biology, allegory, and have the intention to make yourself better, not to capitalize on your situation. No, this information I'm giving off, I'm not trying to make money off it. I can give a fuck if I make money off of this. This is for my own well-being. This is for my own getting ahead for myself. I'm still married to my husband. I'm still doing what I do the dishes, the laundry, whatever wifely duties that are not going to destroy me. Okay, that's not crossing boundaries. And so I'm still very comfortable in my life. But I also need to release some demons. And I'll tell you, I can feel it in my head. I feel the pressure in my head of developing new neural pathways and becoming a whole person. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to put out there, is that we have some people out there who are predatory, who are not whole people. And when you're not a whole person, you'll develop children, but also disease, and also try to take someone's money, body, mind, and spirit, and blame somebody else. And then also try to annihilate and take over and possess somebody else. And I don't want to condone that. I will never be that. That's why my husband, he is very capable. He's a rich man because he's so capable and he's consistent. And he was raised in strength, like literal strength. And he has a lot of power. And so I don't take advantage of that. And if he needs to regain some of his power in life, he could pull back, take a break, not work so hard, and still make his bills. And if he wants to scale down his life, he could, and still have a relatively okay life. Okay? And that's the thing, is if you're married to somebody, you don't want to take them over in body, mind, and spirit and annihilate them through slavery and expenses and expectations. You want to develop yourself and give that person an opportunity to pull back if they need to. And you don't ever back them into a corner where they can't get out. Because any kind of person that gets backed into a corner becomes vicious. You don't back anyone into a corner, you don't back yourself into a corner. Or else you become a predator and vicious. You leave yourself room to move around and to develop and evolve and learn. And many people out there have backed themselves into corners. Oh, Jesus Christ. All right. I am blocking William Pollan. And so you don't ever back yourself into a corner. Ever. You give yourself room and the allowance to do what you need to change. But when those are under the influence and need so many people to keep them alive, yeah, they've backed themselves into a corner. And that's what's sad. And I'm saying, if you have the room to change and room to pull back and room to do, then do it. Save yourself. But it's painful. It's fucking painful. But I found a way to save myself. Doesn't mean everybody can do what I'm doing, but I want to show you that there's a person out there who can deal with the pain and suffering, eat food and release demons, and understand what goes on, and also face whatever 9/11 event that happened to you, because everybody has a 9/11 event that happened to them. They may not remember it. They may have pushed it down so far because that's why they're under the influence. That's why they are suffering from cancer, disease, and chronic illness, because there was an actual 9/11 event that happened that changed our whole fucking world. Changed everything. And that's what landmark education was way back when for me, which they were trying to find out people's 9/11 events to them. And 9/11 hadn't even happened yet. Okay. And so that's the power of the J world, is discovering what your 9/11 event was. But it might take layers and layers and layers of sickness that you have to go deal with. And you got to be in touch with yourself. You got to be writing shit out, whatever. But there is that point when everything changed. And now the world is the way you see it because of that 9/11 event. Not necessarily 9/11, but your own 9/11 event. And it could be in your parents' situation. You could have been born with so many deficiencies because your parents had deficiencies. And then now you were hooked up to machines and given so many transplants and implants, and that was your 9/11. And now you have to survive that and potentially become a whole person if possible. If not, then okay. All right, that's all I'm going to say for right now. But I needed to put that out there. Yeah. There is definitely a war between the good and evil. And it's not like the Democrats are evil and the Republicans are good. No, because it can be vice versa relative to where you stand from. And so, yeah, good luck to you. You're going to need it, especially with these elections. There's some interesting stuff coming down the pipeline. Whatever happens, as far as who gets voted in office, you'll never know if it's legit or not. Try not to get caught up in the war. If you do get caught up in the war, okay, you chose to. And you'll become a casualty. Anytime you volunteer to go to war with somebody, you'll become a casualty. And hopefully you'll survive that casualty situation, and hopefully you learn from it and you don't get caught up in another war again. But this might be the war to end all wars. I don't know. But, yeah. All right. That's all I'm saying. Have a good day. Happy Monday. And I survived. I'm exactly 50 years old. I exactly hit the hay flick limit and I surpassed it. And I fucking survived it without tearing down the house. Thank you, Leonard Hayflick, for that information. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, government. Thank you, America. The last greatest experiment.